Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad, this is my channel Adamant Orange, and welcome to the start of the MU Starscream build. We have the sleeve right here because I've already started opening things up. You'll see that here in just a moment. I don't always record things in order anymore, but we're going to start working on this bad boy. It's a MU Transformers model. I've done 3 already. They are long builds. This is going to be several parts. I'm not exactly sure how many parts as of yet. Probably going to have to partially work that out as I go, but I'm thinking possibly a different part for each leg. If you're looking at the title, you probably have some idea already because I try to put the information in the title. But anyway, let's go over the table, quit rambling on, open this box up and see what all is going on the inside. Alright, we've had to zoom the camera pretty far out so you're seeing some of the mess on my table, but we have Starscream from MU. This is a request model that I was more than happy to accommodate. Let's just slide this sleeve off and get to the box to open things up. I think I'm going to need a pocket knife. Fortunately, I have one within reaching distance. Kind of overkill for this, but here we go. Don't know if I'm opening this upside down or not. Nope, this is good because typically these come in a tray inside of a box, so if you open them upside down, things will somewhat spill out anyway. There we go. Nothing else in the box. Get that out of the way. We have our wonderful sheets here. How many do we have? Oh, it's all inside of a bigger bag. I'm trying to pick it up one at a time. It's going to have to come up as a big chunk with magnets stuck to the bottom. So, I want to say that he has interchangeable pieces. Can't quite remember, but obviously something is movable, removable. But we will put these magnets somewhere out of the way. Ooh, there we go. We'll just stick them to one of my metallic tools. And then we have our finger cuts underneath, which is MU's what got me started using finger cuts. I kind of wish I could find where to get these particular because I kind of like them. But anyway. Oh, there we go. The instructions, the comic book / instructions are underneath. I say that jokingly. But if anything is like normal, there'll be numerous pages of assembly instructions in here. Pretty similar to Metal Earth Peace Cool models. But anyway. Where do I start? How many sheets do we have? These are sheets inside sheets. And somewhere is the resealable opening. Find out how many we have in here. Now that we've got them out of the big bag, each one is wrapped in its own bag. We have a kind of, sort of, almost iconic sized sheet right here. It's a little bit shorter, but close. And then we have the big full-size sheet here. How many of these do we have? There's 2. 2 big, mostly white with some other colors. So that's 2 full-size sheets and a partial sheet. There's a 3rd full-size silver in color. 4 full-size. 5 full-size. 6. And 7. 7 is it. So 7 full-size, colorful sheets and 1, what would you say, 1/3 size? Half size? Maybe, okay, maybe this is half size. So if you said it that way, it's a half size sheet. So 1 half size and, what did I say, 6? 7. 7 full-size sheets and 1 half sheet. I am not going to open up each one of these individually on camera, though I do want to point out something that I kind of forgot about. If you notice, if you can see it, I'm not sure if you can, the pieces are numbered on the sheet, on the metal, and not just in the instructions, and that's a nice thing. Occasionally they'll have pieces that are numbered on the back. This is going to require a special setup. Let's try to actually, I'm going to pause the camera and go over this for a moment, and I'll be right back. You'll barely notice a thing. Alright, so several minutes have passed for me, but for you it's been nothing. And I've looked over the instructions a little bit, discovered a few things, one of which is I counted 7 full-size sheets and 1/2 sheet. Looking in the instructions, however, we open it up. We start off with kind of the same sort of start as Metal Earth. We have talking about folding tabs and tips and whatnot. We'll come back to that in a second. We have the sheets. We have sheet A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. If you count that out, that is 6 full-size sheets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1/2 sheet. I had to go back through. I had forgotten that the big metal sheets actually had letters on them. For instance, if we hold up A here in the corner, don't know how well this is going to come out with the lights, but there's an A right here in the corner. Come to find out, I actually have 2 part A's. If you look at them, they're the same. They both have A up in the top corner. Again, I'm not sure how the light's going to come out with that. I think you can see it. And then from there on, I have sheet B, C, D, E, and all the way to F, which F is, or G is on this corner right here. So somewhere on the corner is the labeling of the individual sheets. I just happen to get 2 A's, which, you know, that may be really cool for me if a part breaks. I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that, but with sheets this big, that can happen. However, going back, to the start. Going back to the start, when you first open it up, we have a little section right here that's basically talking about folded and twisted tabs. I don't believe anywhere in here that they actually tell you which ones to do. Like Metal Earth will have the blue circle and green triangle. They leave it up to you to figure out. And honestly, if you're going to tackle something this big, I do hope you have some experience building 3D metal models already and kind of know which type of connection works better in which situation between twisted and folded. Beside that, we have, you know, the same fold lines, insertion slots, insertion tabs. Again, hopefully by this point you know what that means. We have an inventory of the large magnets and small. There's 3 large and 9 small. I've already counted. I have a sufficient number of those. We have priority installation. I'm guessing, you know, this is saying do this first. Not really sure. I'll probably understand that better as I'm working through the instructions. We have spare part. Apparently there's going to be spare parts in this. Maybe that's talking about the fact that some of these parts are interchangeable. I'm not sure. And then we have front and back, textured surface and non-textured surface. Same as the engraved, not engraved, painted, not painted. And just some general warnings like where they suggest wearing the finger cots. Not sure what this means except to say that the part numbers are on there. Serial sheet metal pieces of the engraved with serial number. I guess that's just saying the numbers are on there. You know, make sure you adjust things ahead of time. And some parts have a spare. Again, hopefully by this point you have some experience and you don't need to rely on those tips as much. Flipping through past the necessary sheets, we have the instructions. There are, or the start of the assembly flowchart, or the start of the assembly. There are 33 pages in this. However, we do not get started until page 5. So basically 28 pages of assembly. And very much like Metal Earth, they show you the part. And there are a little more subtle indications as to how to fold things. There are errors on here though. You have to look kind of closely. Basically this part, the sides fold in and connect. You've got D9 and B76 over here connecting to C38, which as you can see is folded down. So there's a little more advanced interpretation in this model to know how to fold and shape things. They give you some indication, but some of it is, you know, you just kind of have to understand how this goes. I have noticed once you get farther into the instructions, they do start labeling sections. Part 10, like for instance here, part 10 gets called back. Part 9, I think that says part 9. They label parts kind of like Metal Earth does, A, B, and C, and then they get called back later for whatever reason. Eventually you get to a point where you say you finish the entire leg, Down here we finished the bottom half of the leg, part 33. We're going to start building the top half of the leg, and it gets labeled as 37 right here. And then callback 37 and 33 are brought together to form the leg, and it is then called part 38. And over here, as you can see, part 38 and part 19 are brought back together with this assembly you build up here at the top. So there are some things being labeled on top of the parts, sections that are being labeled and brought back, which is going to help make things a little bit clearer. It's obviously going to take quite a bit of time to sort through all of this and build the bits and pieces. It's not going to be a 1 or 2 part build. I'm not entirely certain how many parts I'm going to split this up in, but I'm thinking at least 5. Probably going to be at least 5 parts to this build, because I'm probably going to do one leg, then the other leg. This assembly right here may get brought together in part 3. Build this assembly, bring the legs together, and then continue on with an arm. And then the way the arms are built, it's kind of like the legs. You build one leg, you build the other leg, and then you bring together with another build part. The arms, you build one arm, you build the other arm, and then you build the top half and bring all that together. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to split it up yet, but I'm thinking at least 4 parts for each arm and a part for the body. May end up being 6 parts because there's wings and stuff. We'll just have to see how it goes during the build. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tools used in this build, and I'll just kind of go over the general set of things that I have, and for part 1 we'll get started building one of the legs. Let's take a moment to talk about some tools, and I've got what I consider the basic set in front of me, starting with a pair of flush clippers or side clippers. These are primarily used to cut the parts out of the sheets. You can get the parts out by folding and twisting, though you run the risk of breaking something you didn't mean to break. A good pointed set of side cutters or flush cutters, like this Play-Doh set that I've got here, work really great for quickly getting the parts out so you can get on with your build. I have, of course, a small selection of tweezers. We've got a fairly basic set. This actually came with one of the older Iconics sets, and I've been using it for quite a while. But a good sturdy flat end tweezers can come in really handy for doing a great number of things. I also have a few pieces from a precision set of tweezers. If you need some precision tweezers, just search precision tweezers online. You'll be able to find something out there. These two are very similar. They have a very fine point, though I did grind the tip of these down to help me grab tabs, and then this is just kind of a flat set for getting in tight spaces. And then we have a couple of pieces left over from the Fascinations 3-piece set. I broke the clippers long ago, so I had to replace them, but we have long nose pliers and flat nose pliers. Really handy. These are handy for bending long parts, and these are handy for bending short sections right here. But this is the basic set. Do a great amount of things with just this set right here. You'll be able to build a lot of different models and do a lot of different things. When it comes to shaping curved, domed, or rounded kind of parts, I like to have some sort of tool to mold things around, and I've designed some 3D printable tools for use in that. You might see me using the video. I've got some cone shaping tools. I have a little block here for rounding stuff. I have larger cone shape combo tools, and even a little tool for shaping dome shapes. However, you can just look around the house and find parts, dowel rods, pencils, beads, paint brushes, pens, things like that can also be used to shape stuff as well. As for the 3D printed parts, I do sometimes print up extras and sell them on Etsy, or you can just get the STL files if you have a 3D printer yourself and print these out. I'll try to include links to both the STL files and the Etsy store in the description down below. I have this angled needle nose pliers right here that I believe I bought at Harbor Freight, but not too hard to find angled needle nose pliers. These are handy for bending semi-long parts in tight places where you can come at it at an angle, and occasionally getting into weird places to twist a tab. For curving tiny little parts, I found a pair of round nose jewelry pliers very helpful. You'll sometimes see me shaping the edges of curved parts or circular parts with these. You can find these in your jewelry section of your local hobby store, or search for round nose pliers online or any sort of online hobby store. I also have these step mandrels that I occasionally pull out. These are something else you can find in the jewelry making section. They just have different size round bits for shaping things like tires. Stuff in the jewelry section can come in very handy for making 3D metal models. Every now and then I'll pull out something from my sculpting set. I found a sculpting set of tools, something like 10 or 11 pieces on Amazon. This is just a few of them. The hooks come in very handy sometimes for manipulating tabs into slots in tight areas, and also these pieces can come in handy for reaching in and shaping things, and sometimes reaching in and bending over tabs with the edge. And one more thing I wanted to add, because I've started the build a little bit and I thought I would clarify. I've talked a bit about how the sheets themselves are numbered. The metal sheets are actually numbered, so you don't have to rely on the instructions, though if you're lost that can help. But the pattern in which they use to organize, there is a somewhat of a pattern to it. Things aren't just randomly placed like they kind of are with Metal Earth. It's actually a pattern, and it's kind of a circular pattern starting at the top corner over here, which would be the top left corner if you're facing it. This is part 1, here's part 2, here's part 4. They're a little bit scattered, but there's smaller numbers over here, and then it kind of goes this way into the 20s, 26, 27, 28, kind of goes down this way. We're getting into the 49, 50, 51, and if we go over this way, we're into the 70s, 83. It's loose, but it's more or less starting small to larger, kind of in a big circle or big loop. It's not guaranteed. You'll occasionally find, you might be over here looking for part 40 and find that it's actually over here, but for the most part, finding the parts you want to start smaller number to bigger number like that, if that makes any sense. This is such a long build, I'm not going to show cutting parts out at all, so let's get going. As usual, bending angled tabs straight so that they point straight towards the next connection will help them line up with their slots. And with these Transformers models, there are a lot of side flaps that are angled out and a lot of tabs that need to be straightened. I should not have bent these inner flaps at 90 degrees. They tilt inward a bit. I should not have bent that down first. I should have shaped the circle first. One of the little arms holding this part on the tree didn't clip off cleanly, so the part would not sit flat. Fairly easy fix, just trim that bit again. The edge piece is a bit tricky. In the end, it sits at an angle and connects two sides. bent that a bit too much. It seems like this one twisted tab was in the way, so I untwisted it and folded it over. But then that didn't seem to help. I then realized the size of the larger part needed to be bent in a tad more. Still, it was a bit fiddly to get this part into place. wasn't paying sufficient attention and folded this part inside out. And that's a shame because I folded this small part perfectly the first time. Alright, so we're going to stop there for this video for right now because it's getting rather long. I've actually already finished the leg. Was going to do part 1 as the entire leg, but it's taken me a while to build things, and the edited video is getting to be an hour and a half, or is an hour and a half long. So what I've done is split this up, as you've already seen, into part 1A and 1B, dealing with the leg. We have finished the first 2 sheets of the instructions. Obviously we haven't got this far yet, but I wanted to stop at the end of the sheet so that I can put in the title that this is where we are. So if you're looking for a particular section, it'll be easy to find. In part 1B, we're going to pick up and finish the building of this leg and stop at a somewhat logical section to pick up in the next video, so on and so forth. So I still don't know exactly how many parts they're going to be. I'm going to have to kind of work it out as I go, but I didn't want the videos, I try to keep the videos under an hour. I know I'm putting a lot of detail in them, but then doing that for the people who need that if they're having trouble with their build. And when I wrap up, I'll just do one review video focusing on the difficult parts. Anyway, I'm gonna quit rambling on. If you want to see more, part 2 or part 1B will be coming next if it's not out already. Thank you for watching this. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, as usual, for supporting this channel, and I will see you soon.